the world will be like that. So if you are positive, everything looks positive. So there are people who are good and bad among us. And if you see the bad among the people, you will be always unhappy. If you see the good in the people, you will be always happy. It's like seeing a rose plant. An optimist says, the creation is horrible. How can there be thorns among roses? And an optimist says, seeing the same rose plant, he says that God is great and he has given good roses among thorns also. So it is that way you have to be happy by seeing the good in others. Okay, the inspirational quote today, obstacles don't have to stop you. If you run into a wall, don't turn around and give up. Figure out how to climb it, go through it or work around it. And today's birthday is great Professor G.N. Ramachandran. He is a physicist, he is a biochemist, he is a biophysicist and crystallographer. He was an Indian physicist who was known for his work that led to his creation of the Ramachandran plot for understanding peptide structure. He was the first to prepare triple helical model for the structure of collagen. He developed the Boolean vector matrix formulation, which has important application in writing software for artificial intelligence. Okay, today we'll have the 22nd lecture, and before going to that, we'll see what are the topics of last class. I think that is not there. And so last class we have seen how a two-stage compressor works, and we have seen what is an intercooler, and there will be an aftercooler also. We discussed about it. And intercooler, it is to reduce the amount of compressive work that is needed, because the lesser the temperature, the lesser the work that is needed. Okay, so we try to maintain atmospheric temperature as far as possible, so that the compression will become isothermal and the work will be minimum. And the aftercooler, it is to remove the water vapor that is with the air in the atmosphere. So because we are taking air from the atmosphere, there will be water vapor content also in that. And if you collect them in the reservoir, when it is cooled, it gets condensed and there will be water with it. And when you use the high pressure air, the water droplets also come with that. So we don't want it. When for the practical applications, we want dry air. For that purpose, before entering the reservoir, there will be an aftercooler in which it gets cooled and water gets condensed, and that condensed water can be drained off. And dry air only can be sent to the reservoir. So that's what we have seen. And we have seen all the advantages of multi-staging. It reduces the volume, increases the volumetric efficiency, reduces the work, and better lubrication will be there. And okay, temperatures, because they are small, we can have simple materials and we can have less thickness for the walls, and it becomes lightweight. And the overall compressor for a single stage, it will be very heavy. But two stages, though there are two stages, they are very small things, and the overall weight will be less. And isentropic efficiencies of the nozzle and turbine, these things we have seen. If it is a nozzle or a turbine, the expansion should be isentropic, but due to irreversibilities, there will be increase in the entropy, so there will be less work that we get from the turbine. So actual work by ideal work is the efficiency of the turbine. For the same thing, if you take compressor, it should be ideal one is 1 to 2 isentropic, and real one, there will be increase in the entropy. And because of that, actually the work required increases. So ideal work by actual work is the compressor efficiency. The work is nothing but change in enthalpy. So here H2 dash minus H1 by H2 minus H1. Here H1 minus H2 by H1 minus H2 dash. Okay, simple, easy thing is small one by larger one. So like that you can remember. And we have seen the problems in the last class, a single stage reciprocating air compressor problem. So this we have seen. And so when we want to do this, so we have to find out V4. V4 is obtained by the pressure ratio. We know the pressure ratio, so volume ratio I can find out. Based on that, I can find out this volume. Then it gives the suction volume, right? and suction volume by total swept volume into 100, it gives the volumetric efficiency. And sometimes we have to convert it into free air delivered. That is, now the air is sucked in the suction conditions we are calculating, but actually it is sucked from the atmospheric conditions. So I have to multiply this V1 minus V4 into P1 TA by PA T1 so that I get the free air delivered. Okay. And okay, what can another thing? We just substitute the formula and get it. And if you want to find out, okay, this is in the two stages. Okay, in the two stage reciprocating compressor, so the clearance volumes may be different, and the index of compression also may be different. So we don't know. It depends on the problem. So we have to utilize that. And so the pressures here, they are given two pressures: delivery pressure and suction pressure. Intermediate pressure also given. If it is not given, I have to take it as a geometric mean. Okay. So like that we have to proceed, and the remaining just substitution in the formula, you can get it. And another thing we discussed is that entropy change in liquids and solids when you calculate, because for the liquids and solids, there will not be two specific heat, there will be only one specific heat, that is C only. Okay, so, and another thing is because change in volume is negligible, incompressible, they are. So CV log, CV will be, sorry, dV will be 0. So du by T, so C dt by T, so we will get C average log T2 by T1. Okay. And another thing we have discussed is if there is isentropic process, then T1 equal to T2 and it becomes isothermal also. So for solids and liquids, isothermal and isentropic are same. Okay, these things we have discussed. Okay, Rankine cycle. So this we have seen. There will be heat addition in the boiler, heat rejection in the condenser, and positive work in the turbine, negative work in the pump, and the net work is W turbine minus W pump, and net heat transfer is Q boiler minus Q condenser, and both will be same. Okay, then as we have seen, if there is heat transfer, there is no work transfer. If there is no work transfer, there is heat transfer. So in that way, whether heat transfer or work transfer, it is just change in enthalpy. So if I can find out all the enthalpies at the salient points, I can find out what is the work transfers, heat transfers, and efficiency. So we have seen here, this is the Rankine cycle. And usually the data given will be the condenser pressure, this is this, and boiler pressure will be given. And the superheat, whatever it is there, that will be given. So I have to find out all the enthalpies. So this enthalpy is straightforward. At this pressure, we have to go to the saturated tables and find out HF. So we get this H. And to get H2, we have to find out the work by the compressor. So work given to the compressor is H2 minus H1. So this is also equal to VDP. VDP, in the VDP, we take V to be constant. Here we find out VF. And P2 and P1 are known. So VF into P2 minus P1 gives me the work, which is equal to H2 minus H1. H1 is known, so I can find out H2. In this way, these two are found out. And H3, based on the pressure given and the temperature given, you can go to superheated tables and find out what is H3. And to get H4, so this may not be this exactly saturated. It may be outside in the superheated region or inside in the saturated region. So I have to find out what is S3 here. For the given pressure and temperature in the superheated tables, we not only find out H3, but S3 also. So because it is isentropic, S3 equal to S4. So I have to check the S4 for this pressure, right? If the S4 is greater than Sg, it is superheated. If it is less than Sg, it is saturated. If it is saturated, then I have to, the saturated means wet, okay, mixture. Then I have to find out what is the dryness fraction. Because I know SF and SFG, I can find out what is X. Similarly, knowing HF and HFG here, I can find out what is H. So in that way, H4 is found. So H2 minus H1 is pump work, H3 minus H2 is boiler work, H3 minus H4 is turbine work, and H4 minus H1 is, sorry, it is not boiler work, boiler heat transfer, this is condenser heat transfer. So WT minus WP gives the net work, QH minus QL gives the net heat transfer. So both will be same. but our efficiency is network by QH. So like that, I have to find out. So that is the way we have seen how to solve a problem. So given the boiler pressure and superheat temperature and the condenser pressure, this is sufficient to solve the problem. But sometimes the problem will be extended. If the turbine and pump are irreversible, that is, they are 80% efficiency, then what is that? Okay. So how to do that? I have to draw the figure like this. There will be increase in the entropy here, increase in the entropy here. So I have to find out what is the actual work given by the turbine. So this is the ideal work which is already calculated into 0.8. That will be less than that. So that gives the efficiency, the turbine work here. In the same way, H4 minus H3, previously it is given ideal work by 0.8. So somewhat extra work I have to give. So this work I will get. Okay, pump work I will get. And based on the pump work, because pump work is known, this enthalpy I can find out. This enthalpy is needed because heat supplied is H1 minus this enthalpy. Okay, not this. So I have to find out what is the actual heat given and what is the actual work transfer, and then I can find out the efficiency. Okay, that is what we have done here in this problem. And maybe if I think I wanted to try today with another problem. So here, if people have calculators and steam tables, you can do yourself also. And this is the problem. In a Rankine cycle, steam leaves the boiler and enters the turbine at 4 megapascal and 400 degrees centigrade. And condenser pressure is 10 kilopascals. So determine the cycle efficiency. Okay, this is the problem that is given. This is sufficient, I told. So I have to find out H1, H2, H3, H4. Okay, so H1, okay. Okay, this is the way to, and we have to do like this: WT, W turbine, VH, PL, and I have to put the arrows. It is clockwise, and this is T and S. Okay, so first we have to draw the cycle, and then we have to see what are the values. So if I want to see, this is 10 kilopascals. And this is 4 megapascals, and this is 400 degrees. So if I want to get the H1, so H1 is HF at 10 kilopascals. And so if you see the tables, I have to go to saturated water tables, temperature, this is temperature table. I have to go to pressure table. So pressure table. So 10 kilopascals. So 10 kilopascals, what is the value? HF, 191.8. And at the same time, I have to find out VF also at 10 kilopascals, 0.00101. Okay. So the HF is 191.8 and V1 is equal to VF is equal to 0.00101. Okay, so this is meter cube per kg, this is kilojoules per kg. Okay, then H2 if I want to find out, so WP is equal to V1 into P2 minus Q1. So V1 is known 0.00101 and P2 4 megapascal in kilopascals is 4000 minus 10 kilopascal 10, and if I find out how much it comes to, I think 4 kilojoule per kg, and so this is also equal to H2 minus H1. So H2 is equal to H1 plus WP. That is 191.8 plus 4, 195.8. So in this way, I can find out H1 and H2. So I can find out H3 and H4. So to get H3, I have to go to superheated tables. So this is this, and superheated tables, if I go, in the superheated tables, I have to go to 4 megapascals. So this is 4 megapascal and 400 degrees centigrade. So 400 degrees centigrade, you can see H is equal to 3214.5. And this is S is 6.7714. So H3 is equal to some 32. I don't know, I have some value that is 13.6, and S3 is equal to 6.776 or something. Just you can check. And this is S4. So then I have to find out X4 is equal to S4 minus SF4 by SFG4. So S4 is 6.776 minus, I have to get again 10 kilopascal, I have to go for saturated tables to get SF and SG and HF and HG. Okay, and this is .7714. Okay, again I have to go back, saturated tables, pressure, and 10 kilopascal. So you find out SF and SFG here, and so in that way, so once you get SF, SFG, and HF and HFG, I can find out. So this formula gives X4, and then H4 is equal to HF4 plus HFG4. So I will get some value. So in this way, I can get H1, H2, H3, H4. So once I get that, and so WP is equal to H2 minus H1, and QH is H3 minus H2, and WT is equal to H3 minus H4, and QL is equal to H4 minus H1, and W net is equal to WT minus WP. This is also equal to QH minus QL, and I can find out efficiency as W net by QH. Okay, so this is the way we can find out the efficiency. So the efficiency comes around 35.3%. And X4 we get around 0.816. Okay, so this is the way we have to solve the problem. So as I told, the ways of increasing the efficiency, I can, if I increase the boiler pressure, the top line goes up and I can increase the area. If I decrease the condenser pressure, the bottom line comes down and I can increase the area. Or if I increase the superheat, so I can increase the area like this. So in that way, I can increase the efficiency. There are two more methods also, which you will learn in turbo machines. I think I will show you here. Okay, these are the values for this particular problem. I have given everything. So from superheated steam tables for 4 megapascal and 400 degrees centigrade, this is H3 and S3, and S3 is equal to S4. So S4 is equal to SF4 plus X4 SFG4. So X4 I can find out like this, and H4 is HF4 plus X4 HFG4. I can find out H4. So WT is H3 minus H4, W net is WT minus WP, QH is H3 minus H2. So efficiency is equal to W net by QH. So in this way, we can find out. And if you want to solve this problem, if pump efficiency is 80% and turbine efficiency is 85%, so so what I have to do is, so WP actual is equal to WP ideal, which I already calculated, by 0.8. And WT actual is equal to WP ideal into 0.8. So in this way, we get the things. And WP actual, if I get, this is H4 actual minus H1, sorry, H2 actual. H2 actual minus H1, from which I can get H2 actual. So QH is equal to H3 minus H2.
85.
Yes, 85, right, thank you. It is 85. So H3 minus H2A I have to find out. And then efficiency is equal to Wn by QH. Wn is equal to WT actual minus WP actual by QH. So in this way, you can find out the efficiency. Okay, this is the way we have to solve a problem. Okay, I think I have put one slide here. Okay, the slide is missing. So as I told, I have put a slide, the ways of increasing the efficiency. The ways of increasing the efficiency is by increasing boiler pressure, by decreasing condenser pressure, and increasing superheat. And there are two more methods, by reheating and another called as regeneration. Okay, if you remember, reheating means this already you might have discussed in your gas turbines. That is, you split the turbine expansion, right? And you have a reheater in between that. Okay, that is reheating. So the total work will be increased. I can show you that. So when it is expanding, after some expansion, I reheat it, and again I can expand it. So this is first turbine expansion, and this is second turbine expansion. If I number them, suppose 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, like this. So W turbine is equal to W turbine work 1 plus W second turbine work. So that is equal to H3 minus H4 plus H5 minus H6. So you can see that the area of the diagram increases, and there will be increase in the efficiency, increase in the work, and also efficiency. here one thing important, again, if you compare Brayton cycle and Rankine cycle, in the Brayton cycle also you will have the splitting of the turbine and having a reheater in between, and which increases net work output, but reheating decreases the efficiency of Brayton cycle. But in Rankine cycle, reheating not only increases the net output, but also increases the efficiency. Okay, actually efficiency is equal to W net by QH, right? So QH increases and QH also increases because I add in this and also here. Okay, so there will be some more heat addition is there. There will be increase in the numerator and also increase in the denominator. So sometimes it is difficult to say whether efficiency increases or decreases. But in Brayton cycle, you can clearly physically prove that the efficiency decrease. But here there will be increase in the efficiency, but okay, a little bit only, not much. But there will be large increase in the output. Okay, that is what is called as reheating. Okay, so there is another thing called as regeneration. So regeneration means we heat pumped water with so we take some steam during the expansion. That is, number of turbines will be there. In between the turbines, I tap some steam. That is called as blood steam. Okay, so that's bleeding like thing, blood steam, and that I use to rise the temperature of the pumped water before going to the boiler. Okay, I heat the feed water. This is also called as feed water heater. Right, we use feed water heater. So this is called as feed water heater. So when it is going from pump to boiler, we increase. So if suppose what I do is I will do like this. This is pump 1 and this is pump 2. There will be 2 pumps and 2 turbines, and there will be boiler, and when I have a large turbine. So here I will have a feed water heater. It goes like this. It goes. This is condenser. This is feed water heater. This is boiler. And so this is like turbine 1 and this is like turbine 2. Okay. So in between the expansion, so I tap some water, the steam, and this, okay, here it is, I will draw in a better way. Okay, from the condenser, it goes to the pump 1, and after the pumping of this and this steam, these two gets combined here in the feed water heater, and I get a hot water here to the second pump, and it goes like this. And if you see the TS diagram, it will be something. It will be like this. So this is pump 1, this is pump 2, and this is feed water heater, and this is turbine 1, and this is turbine 2. Okay, so after the pump, this and this steam, these two combine and go to the second pump. Okay, so this is the diagram. It will not increase the output much, but it increases the efficiency. It will increase the efficiency. Okay, this is about, this is called as regeneration. Regeneration means heating the feed water using blood steam. And this is done in feed water heater. This is done in feed water heater. Okay, that is about various ways of increasing the Rankine cycle efficiency. Okay, any questions? Any questions? Yeah, one is always saturated liquid line, but 4, I don't know exactly where it is. One is always taken on saturated liquid line. Oh, okay. So this need not be asked. What is the advantage of using Rankine cycle or Carnot cycle? I want Carnot cycle. Always a person wants Carnot cycle, but Carnot cycle is not practical. Okay, here I will tell you. Actually, it's a good question, and I will go to that. Okay, so I will try to have a Carnot cycle in a two-phase process. Okay. So the best way of having Carnot cycle is like this. Because actually this is in your turbo machines course. I wanted to solve the cycle only. I didn't go through the Rankine cycle in detail, but because you have asked me, I will go through it. Okay, suppose this is the Carnot cycle I try to have. Okay, so this is compressor, and this is boiler, and this is turbine, and this is condenser. Okay, like this. I want to have this way so that I will have the maximum efficiency. So here there are some problems. So the point is, first is the inlet to the compressor, the pump. Okay, so if it is completely liquid, I told you the work required to compress liquid is very less, but the work required to compress vapor or air or gas is very large. That is the main difficulty in Brayton cycle, because of that 40% or even up to 50% of the work I lost to run the compressor in Brayton cycle. That's why its efficiencies are less. But if you come to Rankine cycle, you can see the problem, right, which we have solved. WP will be very, very less. In some problems, we need not consider, we can ignore compared to turbine work, steam turbine work. So that is the advantage of Rankine cycle. So the work required to run the pump is negligible compared to the turbine work that I get from the steam turbine. Okay, so here, because it is water vapor mixture, it occupies very large volume. Okay, so it takes a lot of work for the pump, and also it is difficult to handle two-phase in a pump. Okay, either it can be completely air or gas, or it can be liquid. But if it is a mixture, during compression, phase changes take place, and the blade materials and all, they get spoiled, and we cannot run. Actually, it's very difficult. It should be a single phase. So that is one of the main difficulty, because of which I push this one here, and that's why it becomes like this. Now you can see the difference. This is the height, that is difference in temperature, right? Enthalpy difference will be very large. Here enthalpy difference will be very, very small. Here the constant pressure lines are very close, right? So that is one of the reasons. And the other one here, the 0.4, right? During expansion, suppose if it is 3 here, it is saturated. During expansion, what is happening? Condensation is taking place. That is, during expansion in the turbine, bubbles form, and the bubbles hit the turbine blades, and completely the blade will be eroded. Right? So I cannot have moisture during expansion. Right? So that is the main reason I want to have this either here or outside this, or maximum x is equal to 0.9 is allowed, not more than that, 5 to 10%. Okay, 5 to 10% of moisture is allowed. Why? Because during expansion, because the velocities are very high, sometimes there may not be time for it to get condensed, even if there is a point here, somewhere here. Okay, so that is another reason why I go for Rankine cycle. So to increase the dryness here, or steam, or reduce the wetness, I'll make it like this. I superheat a little bit and bring it down. Okay, this is the way I get the Rankine cycle. Is it clear? So these are the main reasons. One is on the pump side, one is on the turbine side. I cannot have 1 and 4 in the moisture region or two-phase region. Okay, some other point also you can ask actually. So why the Carnot cycle inside? Okay, I can have like this. Or here, okay, it's not like that. Okay, you can have this way. So you can think, because I have a problem with point 1 and point 4, which is having moisture. So I can push this 1 to here and 4 to here so that I will not have moisture. Okay, this is another option to have a Carnot cycle. So what is the problem here? What is the problem here? So the problem here is this region and this region. So I cannot have constant temperature heat addition. Okay, this is heat addition. During phase flows, the phase change from here to here. If I put 2 dash and 3 dash here, 2 dash to 3 dash, no problem, because their constant pressure and constant temperature are same. Okay, so and phase change is taking place, and so heat transfer will be very fast. But 2 to 2 dash and 3 dash to 3, I should have constant temperature heat addition, which you already know that reversible isothermal process in heat addition is very, very, very slow. And these turbo machines, they are very, very fast. So I cannot supply steam like that. So that is the difficulty with this. Is that okay? Mic is not proper, right? Hello, now is it okay? I don't know this. I didn't do anything to the mic. And okay, right. So is my question is my answer okay? Who asked this actually? Mahendra. Okay. So could you listen to me, because you are you told adjust my mic. So did you listen my answer? Is it okay, Mahendra Kumar? Are you there?
Clear it seems, sir.
Hello. Yes. Could he listen? I don't know whether he is listening or not.
Scroll down.
Okay, scroll down. Okay, okay. Right, right. Okay, okay. Thank you, thank you. Okay, this is the way. Is the question clear, right? Answer clear, right? Then okay, that is the way we have to solve the problems. And here we will see vapor compression refrigeration cycle. This also you have studied in your first year, right? So this is a refrigeration cycle, which is an anti-clockwise cycle. And here also you will have heat addition, heat rejection, expansion, and compression. Okay, so here evaporator is the one. Evaporator means the refrigerator, right? So here there will be heat addition to the refrigerant. Okay, so heat will be taken by the refrigerant from the evaporator, and in the condenser it loses the heat, right, to the atmosphere. And there will be a compressor in which compression takes place, and there will be an expansion. So sometimes you can have an expander like a turbine like thing, but here that is of no use. So there will be expansion valve. Okay, it is throttling. With this process is throttling. Okay, so this TS diagram, if you draw, so 1 to 2 there is compression because it is a turbo machine. or even if it is a reciprocating air compressor, so here the speeds are a little bit high, and so we can assume the ideal process is isentropic process because there is no cooling here. The compressor, it is not cooled, okay, it is hermetically sealed, okay, hermetically sealed it's called as. Okay, that's why the ideal process is isentropic process. Okay, 1 to 2 isentropic, and whatever it enters saturated vapor. It takes heat in the evaporator and it becomes saturated vapor, and that is compressed. Okay, so it is up to 2, and from 2 it goes to the condenser. Okay, in the condenser it loses the heat to the atmosphere, and first it will become cool vapor, and then it is condensed and we get saturated liquid here. So here I get saturated liquid, and here there will be expansion. So it expands from the high pressure to low pressure. So this is throttling. Okay, so it comes to the low pressure where this evaporator is. Evaporator is at very low pressure and low temperature. So it expands up to that pressure, because of which because expansion, it is evaporated, and the further evaporation takes place by taking heat from the evaporator. Okay, that's why it is called evaporator. The refrigerant liquid gets evaporated. While getting evaporated, it takes latent heat from the refrigerator, and it comes here. Okay, this is the way there will be an anti-clockwise cycle goes on. And if you want to see, I can show the domestic refrigerator like this. Okay, so this is the way we have, and this is the evaporator, and this is the compressor. So from the compressor, it goes to the condenser. Okay, this condenser, this coil will be behind the refrigerator. If you go behind the refrigerator, you will have a coil like this. Okay, like this. It can be horizontal like this, or it can be vertical like this. This is the compressor from which it enters the condenser, and after the condenser, it goes to the throttle valve. Okay, it can be throttle valve or capillary. Okay, anywhere I want the expansion process to take place. Okay, there can be an expander, there can be a throttle, there can be a capillary. Whatever it is, it has to expand from high pressure to low pressure. Okay, so that takes place in this coil, and after that it goes to evaporator. So in the evaporator, that is the refrigerator freezer compartment, it takes away heat from that. Okay, so that is the way the cycle gets completed. Okay, so this is again from the evaporator, it comes back to the compressor. It comes back to the compressor here, and compressor, condenser, expansion, and then evaporation, and it goes like this. And so this is drawn in two diagrams. One is TS diagram, another is pH diagram. So both are popular, and mainly for vapor compression refrigeration cycle, many people use pH cycle. So why? Because in the phase change, constant pressure line and constant temperature line are same. Okay, so no problem. But here I will have throttling is there. If you want to have a vertical line, because H constant enthalpy, this is vertical line. But in TS diagram, this will be vertical line. Here isentropic line will be like this. So one of the two here will be vertical, right? So you can use either this diagram or this diagram. So people use one of them. Okay, so this is the way vapor compression refrigeration cycle works. And so saturated vapor is taken, it is compressed, and it goes to superheating, and then it is condensed. First it becomes saturated, then it condensed, and it comes to this saturated liquid line. And then there will be expansion, from which the high pressure to low pressure, it gets expanded. And then there will be heat addition from the evaporator to the refrigerant, and there will be evaporation, it comes to the saturation. So in this way, there will be cycle. This is the cycle. Any doubt in the vapor compression refrigeration cycle? That's why it will be hot on backside. That's right, actually. Even if you have a window refrigerator, window air conditioner, if you go by the side of the room, you will get hot air coming out of it. And so that's why many people say for the refrigerator, backside there should be a window or door or something so that there will be good heat transfer. So the heat loss from the refrigerator should be fast. The more heat transfer is there, it better works. Okay, so there are two things. Sometimes we want rate of heat transfer to be very fast, and sometimes we want the rate of heat transfer should be very slow. From the refrigerator to the atmosphere, I don't want the heat transfer. I want to close the door of the refrigerator airtight. Okay, so that there will not be any heat leak into the system. But at the same time, from the condenser, I want to have good heat transfer. The atmosphere has to take the heat from the refrigerant. Okay, so cold temperature, why don't people keep AC outside or compressor inside? So normally, if it is cold atmosphere, I don't use refrigerator, I use heat pump. Because the heat pump COP is very large compared to heat pump of a refrigerator. So we use heat pump, not a refrigerator or air conditioner in the cold atmospheres. Is it okay? Right. So we will see how to handle a problem. So here also the same thing happened. So you have to be familiar with the diagrams. That's very important. This compressor, condenser, throttling, evaporator. So here also you will be given, I need mainly three data. Okay. So one is this pressure, evaporator pressure, and another is condenser pressure, and another is this temperature. Okay. So because again I have to find out only the enthalpies. Okay. So I need only three enthalpies because H3 is equal to H4. I need H1, H2, and H3. Okay. So if I know condenser pressure, this is HF only, right? This is HF and this is HG. Okay. These two are straightforward. Only H2 is to be obtained. Yeah, a refrigerator R134A as the working fluid operates on ideal vapor compression cycle between 0.14 megapascal and 0.8 megapascal. Okay, and only those two are given, nothing else. If the mass flow rate of the refrigerant is 0.06 kg per second, determine the rate of heat trim. And even that other thing also not needed, the temperature, because I know the inlet entropy and isentropic process. If I know the okay, just okay, these are the two data given, and let's see how to handle this. Okay, this is 0.8 megapascal and this is 0.14 megapascal, right? And because I know this pressure and this pressure, and I know the pressure ratio, so I can find out what is the temperature ratio. Okay. And okay, because this is isentropic, Hg and Sg are known. This entropy is there in here also. So here at this point, I know the pressure and also the entropy. So I don't need any other data here. Okay. So indirectly, I am given the pressure ratio for the compressor. So that's why I don't need any other data. Only this data, this pressure, and this pressure, they are sufficient. So you have to go to R134A saturated tables, and what is this pressure? 0.14. So 0.14 megapascal, you find out H1. And at 0.8 megapascal, you find out H3. And here you find out Sg also. So that is S1, which is equal to S2. And I know 0.8 here, the pressure, and S2, the entropy here. So what I have to do is I have to go to superheated tables, and at 0.8 megapascal, I have to find out this entropy, where this entropy is. And I have to find out what is the temperature and enthalpy at this point. Okay, so this particular entropy may be between two temperatures. I have to interpolate. Okay, that's what we have to do. Just quickly, we will see how it can be done. So I can go to the tables R134A. So after the water tables, I will have that. This is superheated water, compressed liquid, saturated ice water. And now R134A is there. Okay, I want pressure table. This is temperature table, and the next phase will be pressure table. Okay, this is that. So I want 0.14 megapascal and 8. Is it right? And 0.8. So 0.8 means 800, and 0.14 means 140 kilopascals. So I have 140 kilopascal here, and 800 kilopascal here. So I can find out that. So here at 140, if I find out the entropy, that is Sg, at 140, Sg is 0.94467. 0.94467. And so if I go to superheated tables, here 0.8 megapascal I have to see. So at 0.8 megapascal, 0.9446 where it is. So 0.9446 must be in between these two, right? So if it is in between these two, 9446 means very near to 40 degrees. Okay, so that is very near to this. It is 276.46, and so it will be around 270 or something. So you have to interpolate exactly what is the temperature here. Okay, so what is the enthalpy here? At 31.31, the entropy is 0.9185, and at 40 degrees, 0.9481. So what is the temperature at 0.9446? Okay, anyhow, here it is approximately, you can take this value, but if it is in between some 0.92 or 0.93 like that, so I have to interpolate what is the temperature. Similarly, if 31.31, this is the enthalpy, and at 40, this is the enthalpy, this is the enthalpy. So what is the enthalpy at that particular temperature? I have to interpolate. So in that way, I have to find out H2. Okay, so H3 and H4 are obvious. So once you know them, so H1 and S1 are found out. So H2, S1 equal to S2. So at P2 0.8 megapascal, so S2 is this one. So from these two, H2 is found out. So it is around 272. It is not, it's written 0.9322. Okay, maybe a small variations may be there. And so H3 is equal to H4. Now Q2, WC, Q1, these are enthalpy differences only. Here mass flow is given. So this is, you have to be careful. Whenever mass flow is given, I have to multiply all of them with mass flows. So I can get the actual values of heat transfer and work transfer. For getting COP, this is not needed. Whether you multiply with 0.06 or not, it doesn't matter because it is like multiplying numerator and denominator. So I will get the same COP even if you don't use this. But if you are asked to find out the heat transfers and work transfers, I have to multiply by the mass flow. So this is the way I have to find out the COP. Any questions? SF, SFG, and SG. Why 0.9447? Okay. So SG only I have to use. Okay, SG I have to use because it is saturated water. Okay, thank you. Any questions? No, Carnot cycle is useful for any time, right? Carnot cycle, I wanted to imitate Carnot cycle. Whatever is the heat engine, I try to design, right? But because of the restrictions, I cannot have Carnot cycle. I can approach Carnot cycle. It is like having perfection. Nobody is perfect, right? Everybody will try to become perfect. We try to approach. There is nothing like nobody can become God, right? We try to become godly, and by imitating, by being good. Okay, R 0.6 megapascal. Maybe I didn't see properly. It should be 0.8 megapascal. Okay, maybe I didn't see properly. Okay, that is 0.8. I'll see just. This is 0.8 megapascal, right? So here only I'm seeing 0.6 is here. Can you see this 0.8 megapascal? Okay, right. Is it okay? So we will go for the story. So today's story. Yeah. Nice story. It's a real story. There was a poor Scottish farmer. One day, while trying to make a living for his family, he heard a cry for help coming from a nearby bog. Bog is like a muddy thing where you will get drowned in it. So he dropped his tools and ran to the bog. There, married to his waist in black muck, complete in mud, a small boy was drowned. Actually, he's getting drowned in that. So was a terrified boy, screaming and struggling to free himself. The farmer immediately saved the boy from what could have been a slow and terrifying death. If he didn't go, that small boy would have been died. So he has saved him, and okay, he went home. And the next day, a fancy carriage, a big car, pulled up to the Scotsman's sparse surroundings. An elegantly dressed nobleman stepped out and introduced himself as the father of the boy the farmer had saved. I want to repay you, said the nobleman. You saved my son's life. No, I can't accept payment for what I did, the Scottish farmer replied, waving the offer. At that moment, the farmer's own son came to the door of the family hovel. Then the nobleman has seen him. Is that your son? The nobleman asked. Yes, the farmer replied proudly. Then I will make you a deal. Let me provide him with the level of education my own son will enjoy. If your boy is anything like his father, he will no doubt grow to be a man we both will be proud of. And that he did, because the farmer cannot say no, because it is for the good of his boy. And he said, okay. And then it happened. And the farmer's son attended the very best schools and in time graduated from St. Mary's Hospital Medical School in London and went on to become known throughout the world as the noted Sir Alexander Fleming, the discoverer of penicillin. And years afterward, the same nobleman's son, who was saved from the bog, was stricken with pneumonia. And what saved his life this time? Penicillin, which is invented by Alexander Fleming. And the name of the nobleman? Lord Randolph Churchill. And his son's name? Sir Winston Churchill, the big hero of England. So someone said, what goes around comes around. So if you are good, everything good happens to you. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. See you again tomorrow class. Okay. You can stop recording. Still, anybody, if you have questions, you can ask.